Hello and welcome to Scene 4 of Brand Film Live, where you can get exclusive insights into crafting branded content from experts in storytelling and marketing. I'm your host, Alexis Wierenga, producer for Brand Film, brought to you by PR Week and Campaign US. Joining me today is Kanyessa McMahon, creative director and executive producer for Suddenly There, a New York-based boutique agency. How are you, Kanyessa?
Hi. I'm great.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here to discuss Brand Film. It's happy to have you here continuing these conversations because I know you were at our workshop this past year as a panelist and also a past juror. Are there any thoughts or things that stand out to you from that experience, from being a juror, or the conversations you heard there?
I think for me, at least, for being a juror, it's amazing how many pieces of content I had never seen. Like these amazing initiatives, and it's like, oh, I had no idea that company was so invested in that kind of programming or so connected to ecological systems or whatever programming, and the other part of it was the weirder part is like the judges, obviously we see everything that's being judged, but we don't actually know we know who wins when it's announced, but we don't really know how many people voted for this or voted for that. And so there's that element of people are upset if you get attached to the content and you're like my guy's gonna win, this is gonna be the film that
you pick your winner.
I'm I don't even know the filmmakers, but I'm it's like my best friend. I'm like, that was amazing, it spoke to me. And it just kind of reminded me that content isn't made for everybody. I think that people sometimes try and say, okay, we want to get women and we want to get conservative white males, and we also want to get hippie. It's no, you have to know who you're speaking to, and that's why some pieces might speak to me and be really, really touch me and whatever, and then other people might not see that connective tissue, and they might just go oh, that was pretty, because all of them are great, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the things that kind of distinguish what I voted for or not, I would think about it and say oh, I gave that one a really high score, and then maybe if I was looking only at, the cinematography, I was looking only at the story, if I was if I kind of started to isolate these things, it's I just really liked that character. I just really, loved the story. It's some of that personal connection. I kind of enjoyed watching and being outside of the creation part of it, so that I could kind of, for myself, be reminded of why I do things, and kind of give myself another reminder of what my intention should be when I make content for myself, for other people and for myself, and that understanding that not everything is for everyone else.
Yeah.
And understanding that some references are going to seem arbitrary, and anyone who creates films knows that you get into these processes, especially with a brand. It's can you take that out? We can't say that. We can't do that. We can't show. I worked at Adidas, and I was who cares if they're wearing a Nike? If someone's standing next to them has a Nike logo, no one cares. But it's throw that. It's what are going to be the priorities? Is it more important to show these two these two musicians together that no one even knows are friends, or is it more important to cut that out of the piece because they're wearing a Nike thing? I'm people will be more interested and kind of attached to the fact that you're giving them access to this moment than they are ooh, no consumer is thinking that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, for me, like I said, it made me remind myself to that connections and content are kind of one-on-one, and they're meant for specific people, and sometimes it's people that you're not expecting connect to them, but that it doesn't matter if other people don't get it. You may not win, but there's someone else who's maybe was really that's one that should have won.
Yeah,
that's the only one I remember. You don't remember that one. It's a lot. There was a lot of stuff to watch, and some of them were long. I think 2 of them I had to watch were an hour long. I was I have a kid. I was
yeah. You start to maybe you're oh, thank goodness, they told the story in 2 minutes now.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I think everyone should participate and come to the panels. I participated on a panel, but the best part of it for me, at least, was when I got to speak to people afterwards, and then kind of understanding what people were looking into and what their companies were doing, and questions that people had about jumping off something I said.
Mm-hmm.
I often kind of feel like I'm sometimes like yelling into the oblivion when I'm talking to brands. I'm like, why doesn't anyone, I'm talking to an agent, why doesn't anyone understand me? And it was kind of nice to be in an environment with creators and or on the agency side, people that were working specifically in the kind of branded content areas that they're developing in their agencies, because I think that's new, even in some of the bigger ones, to have this like specific department that understood that like a brand film is not, it's an ad, but it's not.
Exactly. And great area. How do you be both?
Yeah, how do you be both? And that there's like I said, it's like me yelling into the ether years ago. We're talking 5. Who cares if there's still why do we have to blur that logo out? Like why? Like Nike's not. No one's mad if someone sees that athlete wearing their brand.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know you don't want to give them advertising, but like, guys,
right? Yeah, thinking about like. Those like ideas of like preserving your brand, but also like preserving the heart of the storytelling,
exactly,
and not like just keeping it in, like finding that balance of like being both and yet not really either. Like you're sort of a piece of content for its own content's sake, and you're sort of an ad, but you're also not technically either, and it's this new world. But I think there are some really effective ways of doing it. Like what you're saying, when you're judging and you watch something and you just personally connect, it's like then it kind of takes away that idea of maybe like it's hard to be objective in that sense, but that like brand film is meant to connect with you on that personal level. So if it's doing that, there is something that's working in it.
Yeah. And I mean, I've always felt, and I mean, to tell you the truth, like now I'm working in commercials, but the majority of my career was built on these kind of long tail connections with consumers. And the first company I ever worked with was Nike, which is insane. I mean, it's an insane story, but it's too long to tell. But I was really young. I was 25, and Nike was my first client. To this day, I'm always like, Dorinda Ross, you crazy lady. No, she was like, you either got an opportunity and you were really good, or you got an opportunity and then I fired you. And she's like, and you just happened to like be good. I was like, huh?
Thankfully it worked out.
She was like, oh, okay. And I was like, oh, geez, I thought you were like, but nonetheless, it's that, I think that people, even now, are still so used to like this like commercial thing of it you film it, it comes out in 3 months, it's a commercial, it's going to be on the Super Bowl, it's going to be on whatever, and then like there's that commercial and it's like on to the next one, it's a minute. But I think that so much of how people buy things or interact with brands, be it doesn't have to be a consumer, something that's a tangible, is based on the experiences they have around them. It's not just, oh, I like Jeopardy. It's like maybe you like it, maybe you don't, maybe you're really bad at it. It's more that you enjoyed that you watched it with your family, and that was the only time that your family sat down. So you still do that routine. You still have that kind of beat in your life that's kind of like a settling point, And I think that all those kind of universal things that people have, be it content with your favorite athlete, we would ask Serena Williams really silly questions, and all these like reporters would be like, what? But, she was, she's a real woman. And so, I think that there is something in all levels of content that of like reminding yourself that everyone's a human. Doesn't matter if you're doing a commercial and you're featuring this big athlete, or if you're doing a brand piece and you're going to be in their home and you're going to be with them for three months and embedded and talking about something really, really complicated and dear to them, and maybe that does connect to the brand because it's a healthcare thing or whatever it is. But that people connect with things that are true to like human experience. And yes, they are going to buy said shoe, or yes, they are going to, read, read these certain comics, or whatever the case it is. But the reason they read them isn't just because of like, it's here and it's good. Yeah. Because there's lots of stuff that's good in the world that for some reason people don't like run with.
Exactly.
So I think it's more, like I said, I think that seeing all the films made me realize like, it's not about all of them. Like there was nothing that was like bad, like nothing got to the point when you're a juror, you're like, I don't know how many things you had to go through, but there's a lot of it. But it wasn't every single thing, and so it's like nothing was bad. It wasn't like I could just be like, well, wow, this is a waste of my time. Like I'm not skipping this.
Just totally dismiss it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's like at a certain point I had to just kind of lean into like, oh, like I like this story. I like that this brand supported this story. Sometimes, a lot of the times would be like, who was the person who, like, this is amazing. Like, who are the people that allowed this story that would have never been made without a brand getting in there, like who I wonder who that team is. I wonder who the person is who like let them take that chance. And it made me kind of inquire, because there's so many like heroes behind the scenes, and I think a lot of the time it takes just like one person with maybe not enough money, it's way less than but they're like, you know what, like, go.
This is a good story.
Like, it's a good story. I'm gonna convince people to give you, maybe it's not a lot, maybe it's $100,000, maybe it's $10,000. Like, all right. Mm-hmm. Like, if it fails, but I think that people need to take those leaps and understand that, like, everything about branding and selling and all the rest of it is 360, and it's not just, I like what it looks like.
Yeah, it's a full process, and it's support around the main project.
Exactly.
Was Nike where you got started in branded content, or did you have, like, other experiences before that?
No, I, like, graduated from grad school. I did an MTV show while I was like an assistant at Sony Music. Thank God for my Chris LeBeau, who would let me he would go sit in my cubicle, and I would go into his like big VP office and be like, "Hi, don't know what I'm talking about, but somehow you guys are still talking to me and allowing me to do this show." And I would like
confidence.
It was crazy, but I did like a digital show from the first round of TRL, and then worked there, and then I moved to a small agency, which they had Nike as their client. I was there for a really short time for reasons, sometimes small agencies are not the best, they're too small. And then from there, I just kind of, because of the relationship I had built with the client, she was like, "Look, what do you want to do?" I said, I'll probably just go get a regular job. I'm young, in a few years, maybe if I get some experience. And she said, "Why wouldn't you do that now?" And I was like, "Well, because I'm broke, because I'm young, and I don't have a company, and I, got to live in New York City." And she was like, "Okay, now you are your client." So I immediately was kind of thrust, really quick from like grad school to working with Nike. I tell people it's like I ended up in the same place at the same time as a lot of my peers, but I got a big jump and skipped a lot of steps, which was actually good for me, because there was a lot of things in terms of how ad agencies work that I had no idea about it. And so like I was like badly behaved. I was like going into like agency meetings and being like, "Is no one else going to say no that this is a bad idea? Oh, I'm not allowed to say that." Like everyone's like, "Don't tell the
proper etiquette for agency."
Don't tell the client. I'm like, "Sorry." I was like, "I know you're the client, but this is a horrible idea." And they're like, "No, you can't say that." But I was so young, and I hadn't been kind of run through the appropriate channels, that it actually, I think, helped me, because I wasn't aware I was breaking rules. I was kind of just like, you give me an opportunity with content, and at that time, no one was paying attention to what I was doing with Nike Women. So, through Dorinda. So, like, they were kind of not paying attention until they were, and then all of a sudden, then things changed. People were like, "Wait a second, what's happening over here?" But we were just like, we will make and do with whoever we can get access to, and we will, send someone to the Olympics and have them cook with someone, or paraglide, or who knows, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We will figure something out so that we can then figure out what those stories are and get to know the athletes and get in there. And so it was the best kind of like flash learning experience, because it was obviously like the highest caliber of companies. I mean, I've always been like, it's crazy that was my first like, I don't know anything start. But it made everything past that easy, because and I don't know, like I said, these are some of the things about brands. Like, I think even just like the people who work there and the kinds of athletes and the kinds of stories, there's a certain personality that's really distinctly different. Because right after that, I did work for Adidas, and it's like different kinds of consumers, and you learn I'm really grateful for the fact that I went from doing Nike content to Adidas content, because I would always be in these meetings and being like, "Well, you're not Nike. Like, these are different, like, these are completely different consumers." The person who's like, it's not like you shouldn't even think about being in competition, because like they're number one, but it's like the people that are dedicated to you for a brand, they're coming for other reasons. It's not like, you're better than Nike now, and you have to kind of lean into that. There's a whole different person, and understanding that I had to approach content and understand that like that person that I was speaking to is like not so interested in like I'm gonna win. You know what I mean? So yes, I think having that experience of going like parallel on to brand was kind of also invaluable, because it's not just about like, oh, I don't want to do something I've already done before. Like, oh, can we do this? I'm like, I already did that over there. But it's more that won't work for when you learn the consumer and you are kind of are able to embed yourself with the brand long enough to know that consumer. You start to learn things that like they don't know. Like you end up at events, or you end up doing these stories, and you end up talking to athletes. You end up and all of a sudden you're like, you guys are telling me that this is the commonality between these people and things. But I'm the actual person. I'm not an agency person. I'm not a marketing person. I'm not a brand person. But I'm the actual person who's like talking to people on the ground, and like that's not the story. And like if we tell these kind of stories, people will be like, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
So
when you say talking to people on the ground, how did you, get to know your audience, or like maybe figure out what was genuine and authentic? I guess thinking about the stories that connect with an individual, like how did you kind of figure that part out of it?
I mean, I think when I was doing content for Nike, I think it was, at the time I was around the age, I was on the older side of the age of what the demo was, which I did get older, and I was like, these youth, I don't understand anymore. But I was around, so I was just, I was literally just making content that I wanted to see, and sometimes and I was really lucky that I was spoiled that like the people I was working with were like, what? Like I once called did like a product review that I put up when Facebook was just starting for Nike women. They have 8,000 like followers or something crazy. I put up like a product review, like post that was like, I called one of the tank tops like the mullet of like something insane. And they were like, what? And I was like, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it's more freedom.
Yeah, exactly.
Say what you wanted.
No, but I was kind of making things that like I liked, and no one was really, and then I was like, oh, sometimes, that was kind of like, push and pull. What do people like or not or whatever? And I think when I say being on the ground is that because I'm not just, I'm not, I was like, when you work directly with a brand, that's like you're talking straight to people. Nothing's getting really filtered. I'm not getting like agency people and all the rest of it. And I would be with athletes, or I would be like, hey, let's do a story about, young girls playing hockey. And it's like, okay, and they say, okay, well, here are the products that we have. Here's why we need to tell this story, because there is the world championship, hockey competition happening, and they're really, really competitive, and blah blah blah. And you're like, okay, so I'm gonna go and I'm gonna go see them train, and maybe we'll do a story on how they train and their grit. Then you get there and you're like, oh, like a lot of them have to be ordered to be on like an Olympic team or whatever, you have to have a real job, and they're not making money, and it's not just the training. I mean, the thing that makes them more interesting is all these other things. It's like you have these assumptions going in, and when you have a brand relationship where you can pivot and go like, yes, they are a really good team, but like even if it seems kind of silly that we're gonna take this team to, I don't know, to go-kart, or I don't know, I'm just making stuff up. Whatever it is, in that environment, it's going to change how they talk to each other. You're going to see the players embracing each other, and you're going to see the players joking around, and you're going to see them, a little bit looser than they normally are, and they're going to talk about their lives and their friendships and these things that will complement the content we do on just training, and so, like I said, for me at least, I go into everything like everyone's a human, and I've been notorious not to research people.
Has it ever led you into a spot like where, because it sounds like it's worked out and like led to really amazing authentic moments, but was there ever a time where you're like, I really wish I could go back and have researched before I wasted my time there? Or maybe can you not say it?
No, not so much wasting my time. I mean, I did definitely do a documentary with Adidas on Ed Banger, where I ended up there was like one woman who worked for Ed Banger, and then she like left, and I was the only woman on tour with like French men. I don't speak French. And I also at the end I liked the music because I was hearing it so much. I was like, yeah, I've seen so many, but I see Justice one more time. But and I got more comfortable in the rest of it. But that was definitely like, they're like, so you like our music? I was like, I don't know your music. And they're like, what? I was like, I'm sure I'm going to see it a lot,
I hope I
do. No. And then they're like, you speak French? And I'm like, hey. No, definitely. But I think, like I said, lots of like growth in that. Like we went, in and out of filming that for over like 10 months. It was like popping in, popping out. You learn that like communication is like built on so many other things. Just being in, backstage with these people. Like I would be like sleeping in the backstage, like 3 a.m. in Tokyo, like waking me up. You know what I mean? Like I became a little bit of a part of their family in that regard, and so it made it easier at the end to get things that we wouldn't have normally gotten, because at first they're like closing the door. They're like, you don't speak our language. We're not gonna like if you're here like with a camera, we're not even speaking English, but we have to kind of speak English to make it more global. It becomes uncomfortable when you're in your moments of like rest.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't think it's not kicked me in the ass yet. It's worked. It's worked because I'm like, well, you know what it is? It's like, it doesn't matter how big the athlete is. It's like, I don't know, it's LeBron James. It's like, okay, he's a basketball player, I guess. I could learn all his stats, or I can like, but you know what? The fact of the matter is that like there are certain questions and there's certain ways that people tell stories when they they think they know the end. When you go into any interview, you go into any, okay, I'm gonna do a story about preserving koalas, and I know that the end of the game is that there's only this many koalas in there, like going extinct, and like da 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 da. But like, I think there's something about listening to people and interacting with people where they're actually informing you, as opposed to hey, so I know that you've done this. And then all they're doing is regurgitating the information that you're prompting them for, as opposed to, I was like, so what do you do? Is this like electronic music? Is it like they had to like rethink about how they were going to explain it to someone who wasn't, I'm not a film journalist. It's not like, well, it's a little bit of, drum and bass. I don't understand.
Or like pulling what they say about themselves off their Wikipedia and being like, so I know you're like reggae meets electro.
And I don't understand what that is. You know what I mean? And so I think that there is something in like the actual part of building stories, grabbing stories, where if you're learning as a creator with the person, it actually, well, it surprised them, but I think you end up getting more genuine content because people can't regurgitate answers. I once did a piece with Serena Williams, and right before we started, I said, oh, like, I know this story about you and your sister, and she was like, that story's not even real. And I was like, what? She's like, I don't know where it came from. It's like on the internet, and it's been on the internet, and every interview I do, people ask me the same question. And she's like, and I, I don't, so at this point, I just give the answer I give, or I change it. I say it's about her. And I say, oh, I love playing tennis with my sister. But at the end of the day, they're like, it's just people reading someone else's doing something and then reading the Wikipedia, doing their research, and then they're just kind of telegraphing. And she's like, I'm just going to answer that question. There's no room to veer off and kind of experience the person or that event or that story with fresh eyes. And I think that benefits things. It happened with the Ford project. I had never done a car commercial. I've only ever done kind of docu-style projects. There's nothing on my reel or in any project I'd worked on that said that I could do what it was. I mean, the client said the only reason there's nothing on your reel that says you can do this except for the fact you say you can. I was like, yeah, that's literally all it is, But I think what gave me the they kind of lost myself there. No, but I think what gave me the kind of context of that is like, I know that I can kind of work through things, and I am good at talking to people, and I'm good with connecting with people, and I actually, that was bad. So basically, I lost what my point was, which is what happens with everyone. I was just talking. My point, what was I saying? I was saying that how did I jump to Ford? I was saying that
it's the whole idea of finding authentic, more interesting points when you don't come in with preconceived ideas of what the story's going to be. Yes. That
was what it was. Is that I don't know. I've never made a car commercial. I don't know what the rules are.
Yeah.
I don't know like what I'm supposed to do. Like, oh, you never do that, and you never shoot from. I mean, they give you the rules, but like, I'm like off base. I don't know anything. But because I'm coming with fresh eyes, and I didn't go in and like study every car commercial. Okay, I'm gonna get in there and I'm gonna be like, the car looks better like this, and I'm gonna light it with this specific light, and I know all the things. I was like, hey, I know nothing about car commercials, but this is how I would make a car commercial. And like, they're like, well, that's breaking rules. I'm like, well, I believe. They're like, well, we've never seen that. I'm like, I know you haven't seen it, but I can see it in my brain. I know that this is, but I'm coming at this like someone who doesn't know better. And sometimes when someone doesn't know better, they make these leaps and they make this content, or they ask a question, and they, and they're able to get a story that is better. And I think that's why sometimes people think, if you're gonna, is it better to have like people tell like stories? I think in some situations, yeah, sure. Like it probably, if it's an intense thing, for it to be, a woman talking to a woman, But I do think that sometimes, like when someone seems kind of outside of it, it allows them to not come with that preconceived notions and their own agenda in the story, and let the story be the leading element. And like I said, with brand stuff, yeah, you come in with like, the brand wants to, let's talk about our initiative with women and youth athletes. Okay, well, yes, we get there and you're like, wait, weirdly, there's this like, there's the team, but there's also like this mom, and there's like this, there's all these other pieces, and like the team's cool, but the girls are kind of like not well spoken, and they're too young, or they're, they're not that interesting. They looked more interesting than we would, it's like being able to pivot and kind of let the story find the strongest story, and kind of connect to that. So, and also, like I said, fresh eyes. Made an ad that they're like very happy with. I'm like, the car doesn't move, but
people are gonna remember that commercial because it stands out differently from the other ones.
No, exactly. So it's bright. It's got like 40 black women in it. Everyone's like, what is this? I only saw one comment where someone's like, clearly we know the demographic for this, and I was like, I mean, sure, I guess. You know what I mean? But it's not. It's a car is a car. Then the rest of the comments are about what the car looked like, and I think there's certain people that like I said, when you're making things, for me at least with that, I was like, there are some other references or things I put in this that people are going to notice. Some people are going to be like, yeah, I love it. There's so much black girl magic. And there's some people that are car people who are just like, hey, so the grill on the car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, it doesn't mean that person doesn't like that commercial or won't sit through it. I think you just have to know, like, if for me at least, like if only people who were really like feeling it were like women like me that were like, yeah, I've never seen this, and or a little girl, then like, yeah, that's great. And you want everyone to buy the car, but that's going to be the thing that makes me feel good, is that someone like saw that little thing, and then like the car is going to look good. The car did look good.
Yeah,
of course it's going to look good. You know what I mean? But I think that there's like twofold. It's like I had never done it before, but that's the reason it looks different. So there's that.
Yeah. Well, no, it's interesting. It's like getting a bit meta. It's like I had, like with any interview, I always like to feel prepared to like preparing questions, but then getting into this conversation, I'm like, oh, like the things you're saying, I just don't need to even reference these questions I have, because you said something that I naturally want to like, I feel like you're telling the story of like your career and like right now. And so it's something that like, my question, I'm like, oh, these don't quite fit the preconceived questions I had for you, even. So
that's what I say. I think there's not to say like everyone should be prepared. I think there's like the
balance.
There's totally room for balance, but I think like it's something too for brands to understand, and for agencies to understand, is like you set up these things, and I know everyone has spent months and months and a year coming up with this initiative and this hashtag. But I'll say one of the things I did for Adidas was this campaign called #MyGirls. And one of my big things, I came in like, my boss was like, you're going to just be the director. I'm like, whoa, I'm not a director. I was like, but if you're going to pay me, Yeah. But I came in, they're like at the end of this creative process, and I was like, hi guys. Like the people we're featuring are like 24 years old. No 24-year-old woman is like me and my girls. I mean, we did use the hashtag, and it did work, and I, of course, made it happen because I'm a professional. I'm good at my job.
Found a way.
I mean, I made it happen organically, but I was like, what? And I was like, and I think that because of where I started at Nike and being kind of like small person who didn't know better, and then after a certain point being more comfortable in certain rooms, I knew that, yeah, sure, maybe sometimes you get to the end and like that hashtag's going to stay or whatever, but understanding how to like adjust things slightly to make it a little more authentic, to say maybe just bring it up. It's like I had enough context to say like this is like, I'm not going to make that the me and my girls the thrust of the stories. I'm going to, yes, it's going to be about the women and their relationships with each other, but it's not going to be like, we go and hang out at the gym and da-da-da, and this is what we do together. And it's like, here's who I am, and here's how I, elevate myself, and these are the women that help me do that. And, and then, like, yeah, maybe they say girls somewhere in there, but, but I think, like, I had to kind of process that and understand, like, I think that sometimes when people have worked so hard, and I know that, and I get it, you have to have, your brand has to approve everything, and, like, that's what's been approved, and it's like, if you get someone who comes in with fresh eyes and goes, yeah, but, like, can we change the color of the car? And it's like, well, the car's never been another color. It's like, I don't know that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But, like, but, like, why not? And it's like, no one really knows. It's like, because, you kind of get conditioned to these things. And I think when when systems are good and they make companies work, but in a system, sometimes great things fall through the wayside because no one is able to like you get less and less elastic with concepts. You get less and less elastic with what you can cover or can do, and then you're actually shutting yourself off from this. You're covering like 10% when there's 90% of the stories, and 90% of the stories will can connect with so many more people, and kind of also create that connection between you and that consumer where they're like, I'm gonna always buy that car. And they're like, why do you your mom? Why? Every time I see a Lincoln Continental, I think of my grandpa. It's like, I may not buy a Lincoln Continental, but those are the things. He always bought the same car. He's got a new one and a new one and a new one. So I think, understanding that you can't take huge leaps. I mean, Ford took a very large leap on me, and I'm really, 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 really honored that I got the opportunity, especially because I, was just my word. now it's on my reel. Now I have proof that it works.
Exactly.
I'm like, I believe me. In here it all makes sense. They're like, but I think having some flexibility, and I think that's why these departments, like I said, like at Capitol with their creative content department, and there's two people there, like Ryan Allingham and Kira Carlstrom, that I feel like come up with concepts that, like, maybe you don't have the biggest budget, you don't have anything, but they're kind of like, what do we have to lose? Like, if it, like, this could be a really, really, really good connective moment that benefits this brand or this artist more than maybe just a music video. The music video might get watched, but it's like anything. It's like micro influencers. It's like maybe those 20,000 people or those 6 million views of my documentary. It's like, yeah, is it 20 million views? No, but the 6 million views, because they don't count them. Those people were like very, very like, I can't believe I saw this. And that's, is it 6 million people or someone who's not watching the video and is just listening to the song and doesn't really know who the person is and won't buy the album, You know what I mean? It's like,
what kind of experience are they having with it?
Yeah, content? Exactly. And so I think it's important for brands to think about stepping out of their comfort zones. I know it's risky. I know it's this. I know it's that. But, like, you're not going to win by just doing the same thing. And you're not going to win by also going to the same people.
Yeah.
Like, you're not, that is, yes, you spend all this time, it's all this money, but, like, I feel like whenever I think about the things that are big pushes or big, amazing moments, it's, like, somewhat on the cusp of, like, a educated risk. And I also think the other part is, like, find money for people, because that's the other thing, is, like, I'm not risky if you give me money. Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, there's always someone, you have someone who's a great idea. There's always someone who can be a producer who can support that filmmaker. You can say, hey, this kid or this guy who's kind of a weirdo, he's got this great story and his access. We need to partner him with someone, but still kind of give him enough, keep him on the rails. But, like, there's, I think that people get too scared of kind of creating a community around people or the time it might take. And it's like, you're losing in that. You're losing when you don't give the person who doesn't have it on their, on their reel, don't give them the job, because someone else has that stuff on their reel, but, like, it looks like the same thing every single time. You know what I mean? So I think listen to the stories, follow the stories, let them be the stories are going to be, you know what I mean? Because you can cut something out of a person, like I said, it's different than a brand film, you can't have, like, I curse a lot. You know what I mean? I there's, like, curse words in some of that Adidas content I did. I would just, like, not bleep it, and I'd be like, is someone gonna come? I refuse. But
it's more real.
No, but not even that. I just, like, why not? It's like, these are adults.
Right.
They're adults, and so anyway, so I think that there's, like, a way to take a risk with safety on it, but understanding sometimes when you don't give money to people for those things, you give $20,000, they really need 50, but you're giving them, $2 million to something else that like people don't remember. You know what I mean? So it's like if you gave 50, then that 50,000 might really have more impact. But when you give them 20 and you're like, oh, it wasn't that great. And, oh, they didn't do that many interviews. It's like, well, they didn't have time. They didn't have the money. They didn't have the resources. They didn't have the support. It's like that $20,000 can go much further with like someone who's got a real story and is committed to it and also connected and feeling like they want to do it and they're not just doing it for a job. And I think when it comes to like branded content creators, I think at least the ones I've met, like the kinds of content people are making, even if it's for a brand, comes from like that perspective of connecting and from that background of like that being part of how they want to interact with people. And so, I think, even when I worked for brands, I'm like, I don't really know anything. I'm like, okay, let me look at this and find the thing that makes me connect to it. And then I'll have that little bit of like a string that keeps things, authentic, for lack of a better word.
Right. I mean, yeah, the idea comes back down to that of like just having a genuine story that like draws people in and they want to watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we're gonna wrap it there for today. Thank you so much.
You just let me just ramble. Jeez.
It was interesting. If I felt would have been boring, I would have like tried to
like the part where
interrupt you or something.
The part where I got myself lost in a maze in my head.
No, because I actually found that maybe that was me. Maybe the audience will be different than me, but personally, as somebody who like does interviews and in the past has done video producing, like I always feel like I feel lost if I don't have notes and research in front of me because I'm always scared of the awkward moment in an interview where there's like the gap in silence and it's like, oh, we addressed everything. What else do we talk about now? Or like, you don't seem to like want to talk about this that I just thought we were going to talk about.
I mean,
so thank you.
It's a skill and a curse. I'm like, I will talk.
Yeah, which made you a great panelist for us at the Brand Film Workshop.
No, I'm like, I might get lost. I don't have an ego.
But yeah, thank you so much again for joining us today. I want to remind everyone the Brand Film Awards and the workshop are coming up on May 7th, 2020. We're still accepting some submissions now, so you can check out brandfilmlive.com if you're interested in submitting.
Until February, what? 5th?
It's February. Yeah, it just got extended to February 5th.
See? I read emails. Read your emails from them.
Check your emails from Brand Film, PR
I got campaign, 2 emails today from Haymarket, and I read them both. One was from Alexis.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, no way. My name, full disclosure, my name gets put on some of that.
Well, it was really pretty. Because it definitely came recently.
Okay, great. Well, shout out to our marketing manager, Rena Grace Sapin, because she's the one who puts those things together. Yeah. So I'll pass on the
I got both of them. I read them both.
Yeah, so reminder, please read your emails. Read your email. Hopefully you read the email that led you to come to this podcast. And want to wrap it there. So thank you to Kanyessa again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Brand Film Live.